I'm Chris Hansen, right now on Crime Watch Daily from here in New York. A triple homicide ends in a blazing fire.
She was targeted, she was set on fire.
But the trail to find the perpetrators would go cold until
we knew that Becky was having problems with her boyfriend.
Waiting for my precious boyfriend.
She just fell for him very fast.
her high school sweetheart and his best friend, a decorated military hero, are arrested and then set free.
The first thing that came to my mind was that they got away with murder.
A secret admirer, a political scandal, a hidden camera confrontation.
When's the last time you saw her?
Anna Garcia investigates the mystery in Pinyon Pines.
Take your best shot.
Right now.
Andrea Isemser with Crime Watch Daily.
Jason Matera with Crime Watch Daily.
This
I'm Elizabeth. I'm here with Crime Watch.
I'm Michelle from Crime Watch Daily.
Anna Garcia from Crime Watch.
is Crime Watch Daily.
Stay off my property. We'll find you again. We always do.
Welcome to Crime Watch Daily, everyone. I'm Chris Hansen. We start out west today in California, where a headline-making triple homicide may finally be solved. But it's not the first time investigators have thought they had their men. Anna Garcia is here with our all-new investigation. Hey, Anna.
Chris, this is Pinyon Pines, California, a desert community in the mountains above Palm Springs. We're here to find out who would want to murder a family of three. A long drive up a desert mountain road.
It is really pretty here. And is Pinyon Pines that way?
Straight ahead, 17 miles.
A seemingly tranquil stretch of highway leading back through time to one very dark place. This is where the tracks ended?
Yeah, in fact, you can still see the police tape from the crime scene. First time I've seen this. Wow.
You can't tell now through all the rust and concrete, but not long ago, this was the location of a slaughter.
Whatever she saw, it scared the hell out of her.
She was targeted, she was posed, she was set on fire.
My sister's like old baby dolls laying on the ground, and you think about all the times that you had with the people that you loved that were no longer there anymore.
Before the ashes, before the flames,
Looks like you guys are getting married.
Becky Friedley, her mom Vicky Friedley, and mom's boyfriend John Hayward were living high above California's Coachella Valley in a secluded neighborhood called Pinyon Pines.
My mom was a free spirit. She was a hippie at heart. She really had such a kind heart.
And at 53 years old, that kind hippie heart seemed full.
My sister seemed devoted to John. He was a very good father, and it seemed like everything was peaceful.
Then there was the youngest of Vicky's four daughters, Becky Friedley. And if there was one thing about Becky,
The first thing that pops out of everyone's mouth is how funny she was.
She was a live wire. She embraced life with both arms outstretched.
Super fun, bubbly. She was, every room she like relished in being the loudest, funniest person there, always.
and in many ways, after Becky's mom divorced her biological father, Ron, she seemed to be the glue that held the scattered family together. But it wasn't always easy to stay connected living in Pinyon Pines, miles above the city where the average number of bars on any cell phone was 0.
We used to joke about when we were younger that, you know, you could literally stand in her front door and yell and the neighbors can't hear you.
Now, not such a joke. If there were any screams that night, no one heard them. Just the howl of the fire engines hours later.
And my mom called me, and she told me there's been a fire at your sister's house. So I remember thinking, maybe Vicky left the oven on, or thinking maybe they're not home.
But it was no accident, and everyone was home. Inside the smoldering ruins of the house, investigators find the charred remains of two bodies. Vicki Friedli has been shot in the head with a .40 caliber handgun. Beside her, Vicki's boyfriend John lay dead from a shotgun blast to the chest.
It was very violent. It was just shocking.
And it got worse. Outside of the home, found burning in an old wheelbarrow, was the lifeless body of 18-year-old Becky Friedli, too badly burned to determine her exact cause of death. 3 lives reduced to ashes in one night.
I was devastated. I think I just cried uncontrollably. I couldn't think straight. I just wanted answers. I wanted to know what happened.
Shortly after the triple homicide, sheriff's deputies questioned one of their own, a former deputy retired just the year before, Vicki's ex-husband, Ron Friedli.
My mom married Ron when I was 6. Once she married Ron, he got a job as a deputy sheriff, and we packed up and we moved.
Ron had actually built that house in Pinyon Pines with his own hands, and with another man living there with his ex-wife, some couldn't help but wonder. Ron was questioned by police and reportedly even passed a polygraph, but some still thought there might be a connection.
I think the biggest thing in my mind was that Ron had arrested someone previously that really held a grudge against him, got out of prison thinking he still lived there, and then came up and killed whoever was there.
Police looked into that theory as well as a possible drug connection with boyfriend John. But as investigators dug a little deeper, it became disturbingly clear that there was really only one intended target.
Well, I think Becky was the focus of this homicide. It was very likely that John and Vicki were collateral damage.
Private investigator Louis Bolaños, who used to work on the force with Ron and knew the Friedlis well, had been following the case since day one.
Why do you say that Becky was the intended target of this crime?
They put Becky in a wheelbarrow in front of the house, and in a place at the end of the driveway. We call that posing. And the purpose of posing that is to send a message, makes it really personal, to first responders, to the family, that was our target. We weren't here for John and Vicki, but Becky was our target.
And for those who knew Becky best, there were more reasons to believe this crime was all too personal.
When she was young, maybe 3, 4 years old, she ran into her sister in the kitchen who was carrying a pan of oil, like burning oil, and it spilled over her chest. So Becky had burn scars all the way down her chest. And that was something that everyone that knew her knew about her burn and her scars.
Daniela and many others say the incident left Becky with a well-known lifelong fear of being burned.
So then what do you make of the fact that she was set on fire?
That was a direct hit for Becky.
It was an attack on her.
Yes.
So then, who was her attacker? Police questioned a number of people, but no arrests were made. No progress, it seemed, at all.
A year and a half, the case went cold, just stopped.
But why do you think this case grew cold so fast?
I don't understand why it grew cold. I don't think it should have.
And he wasn't the only one. Just how mysterious was this mystery after all?
It took me all but 30 minutes. As soon as I found out that it was a homicide, I knew.
Coming up.
Waiting for my precious boyfriend.
Say hi, Robert.
Hi, guys.
Fresh eyes take another look at the case and uncover shocking new details.
At the scene where they caught Becky, someone dropped a business card. And on that business card, they found DNA.
And
When's the last time you saw her?
True. It appeared to be just a house fire. However, it was anything but. 3 people were murdered, their bodies set on fire to cover it up. Ana Garcia is back now with more on the mystery in Pinyon Pines.
Chris, the blazing fire left a cold trail for years, a triple homicide, and no suspects. After just a little digging, it was clear to investigators that the real target of the homicide was 18-year-old Becky Friedli.
They put Becky in a wheelbarrow They poured accelerant on her and they lit her on fire, and they left her there posed to send a message to everybody around there that responded that they committed this crime.
There's no question about that?
There's no question about it.
But who would want the beloved teen dead so badly?
It took me all but 30 minutes. I knew almost instantly. As soon as I found out that it was a homicide, I knew that Robert was involved.
She's talking about Robert Pape, the boy Becky dated in high school.
Waiting for my precious boyfriend.
Say hi, Robert.
Hi, guys.
She was very smitten over him. She loved his personality, and she just fell for him very fast. For almost a year, they had a great relationship.
Robert got Becky a corsage.
But like a lot of high school relationships, this one ended after graduation. But was it a clean break?
It didn't seem that Robert accepted my sister moving on. He seemed to be possessive. There was a lot of weird phone calls and a lot of things where he would, say that, no one else can have you, or, you're mine, and he would be jealous.
And that's not all.
So something very important happened here. What was that?
Well, the day before the triple homicide, Becky worked at Denny's here as a waitress. At some point during that day, Robert Pape came down to Denny's and had a very loud verbal one-way exchange with Becky, very heated. He was very angry about something.
Becky's cousin Daniela says Becky called her on her way home that night and told her all about the confrontation. She also said Robert wasn't alone.
She had told me his military friend, and Robert came in. He was harassing her in the restaurant.
That friend was Christian Smith.
Christian was very good friends in high school with Robert Pape, and after speaking to the family members and friends, it was very obvious that when they were apart, they behaved better, but when they were together, their behavior was off the charts.
According to Daniela, Becky had agreed to go hiking with the boys the next night in an apparent attempt to get them to leave. It was the last conversation she had with her cousin.
And then you lost the
And then
cells.
she lost service.
You lost the cell signal.
Yeah.
It seemed like such critical information, so then why wasn't anyone acting on it?
I told my mom right away, that same night, and she told the investigators, but I was never interviewed for 7 years. No one ever contacted me.
That's where Luis Bolaños really comes in.
And right about here is where Becky lost cell phone connection in her phone call with her cousin Danielle, discussing the incident at Denny's.
After so many years without answers, Luis decided to take on the case pro bono.
We came up with a game plan, what we wanted to accomplish and highlight. And we knew that we needed to get this story out to the public immediately and share some of the brutal facts.
One of the first things he did was put up billboards, shockingly graphic images of Becky before and after the crime.
Was this about getting more information, or was it about putting pressure on the suspects?
All the above.
But after so much time had passed, would it even work?
We ended up getting over 3,000 phone calls.
3,000 phone calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one of those tips came from none other than Becky's close cousin, Daniela Zermeño.
And you said the name Robert, and was Robert alone at Denny's, or was
No, I am sure that Robert was with a friend at Denny's.
In this taped interview with Luis, Daniela finally gets to tell her story about the last phone call with Becky and the explosive confrontation that night before she was killed.
He spoke with me on my conversation with Becky and then asked me to pass that along to the investigators. And at that point is when it started to kick up again. And it just kind of put new life into the investigation.
And Lewis is surprised by how little had been done previously.
When we became involved, Pape and Smith were interviewed, but very briefly. And at some point in their interviews, both had declined to speak any further. They wanted their attorneys.
Years earlier, both Christian and Robert apparently told officers that they had canceled the hike with Becky and were nowhere near her home when the crime occurred. But Lewis had a theory about that.
They lied about their whereabouts. Their phones, their cell phones, both shut off during the same time period where their whereabouts can't be explained. The cell phone pings show them going up Highway 74. They claimed that they never went up that way, that they were going to church.
They were going to church at night?
Yeah.
So their alibis did not hold up?
No, the alibis didn't hold up.
And there was more, much more.
At the scene, about 70 yards north of the residence, someone dropped a business card. And on that business card, they found Christian Smith's DNA.
Without being able to prove how the card actually got to the scene, prosecutors never made an arrest. But Lewis was more convinced than ever that he was on the right track, and he was about to turn the pressure way up. Next.
If you can come along and do a reenactment of the crime, then that's something that catches people's attention.
A Hollywood production designed to draw suspects out of hiding and
Robert, yeah, I'm Lewis.
the dramatic confrontation that follows. Over half a decade after the unsolved murders of John Hayward, his girlfriend Vicki Friedley and her daughter Becky Friedley, suspicion, at least unofficially, turned to Becky's ex-boyfriend Robert Pape and Pape's friend Christian Smith. But no arrests were ever made, so private investigator Luis Bolaños decided to start his own investigation. And then, to make sure the case really got the attention it deserved, he reached out to Hollywood.
Especially in cold cases, people tend to lose interest and they tend to forget about things that have happened. But if you can come along and do a reenactment of the crime, then that's something that catches people's attention.
Together, the men decided to produce a reenactment based on police reports and what they believed happened that night.
Mom?
It was a shockingly realistic portrayal. The chilling scene played on TVs across the country, and even more tips started rolling in, most of them pointing right back at Robert Pape. So Lewis decided to talk to the man himself.
Robert, yeah, I'm Lewis. We decided to go up to Robert Pape's door, knock on it during the daytime, and with Hollywood, film the encounter and make it a passive encounter. And basically we were there just trying to find folks that knew Becky in high school, working toward this tribute video, a positive thing, because we wanted to get the story out to anybody and everybody and get it moving.
But was there really a tribute video, or was this just a setup?
Asking friends of hers who knew her back at the time just to see a few words about her. Well, I asked them to, what was your last encounter with Becky? Remember the last time you saw her?
And what did he say?
Shoot, I guess that was some time ago. Do you remember? I mean, that's something I'd probably remember the last time you saw her, and that'd be pretty special. He couldn't really remember. He just couldn't remember. And I thought, well, how can you not remember? You guys dated for so long. She was important to you. You know that she died from a homicide.
What did he say about Denny's?
Do you know anything about some type of argument she had with somebody at Denny's? Did you ever go into it with her over anything? I guess I can't think of anything offhand, no. He denied any encounter at Denny's, that ever happened, that there was any kind of yelling match, which we knew was incorrect.
After dodging a few more questions, Robert ends the conversation, but Lewis leaves satisfied.
And you played with him?
Yeah, we did.
You put the pressure up?
We did put the pressure on him.
So the pressure is now getting really intense.
Yes.
The media scrutiny, everyone's talking about it, the billboard, it's like everywhere now.
Right.
Does that change anything?
It does.
In a surprise move, 7 years after the triple homicide in Pinyon Pines, it seemed then District Attorney Paul Zellerbach was finally ready to move forward. Robert Pape and Christian Smith were under arrest.
So they were arrested, and what were they charged with?
They were charged with triple homicide, each of them.
But that wasn't the end of the story, though.
No.
Coming up.
It was one of the happiest days of my life when they were arrested.
And then that was followed by
Complete shock.
Allegations of corruption threatened to derail everything. But then,
take your best shot.
Did authorities have it all wrong in the first place?
Javier Garcia, who is he?
Javier was very, very much in love with Becky, and Becky was not in love with Javier.
A California community on edge is finally at ease after police make 2 arrests in the mysterious triple homicide of a family in Pinyon Pines, California. But unfortunately, that feeling wouldn't last long. Ana Garcia is back now with more.
Sometimes the simplest conversations end up meaning so much.
The last time I spoke with my sister, it was her nephew's birthday, and I had said, could you please take the day off, come out here for his birthday. And then she said, it's not like it's going to be the last one I ever get to come to. And I said, you never know.
Just a few weeks later, 18-year-old Becky Friedley was dead. The third, and investigators believe, only intended victim in a brutal triple homicide. Then 7 years after the horrific murders, Becky's ex-boyfriend, Robert Pape, and his friend, Christian Smith, were under arrest.
So when there were finally arrests in this case, did you think, we're now going to get justice?
I did. It was one of the happiest days of my life when they were arrested.
And then that was followed by
the news that they were going to let them go.
That's right. Just 6 months after the arrest, and with little warning, all charges were dropped, and the boys were let go.
These were not the right guys.
We cried. My mom and I and my sister, we called each other and just cried.
Officially, the DA's office claimed there were procedural issues with the grand jury that indicted the two. But private investigator Luis Bolaños thinks there may have been more at play. Hold on, because things are about to get a little crazy.
They were in custody for a few months, so now they're getting ready for the preliminary hearing. And there's a ton of motions, and one of the motions filed by one of the attorneys for the suspects subpoenaed the DA himself, Paul Zellerbach.
Wait a minute, the DA was called to testify about this case?
This case or something relevant to it, and that's almost unheard of, to have the actual DA come testify.
But Zellerbach never took the stand because a few days before he was scheduled to appear, the case against Pape and Smith was dropped.
The first thing that came to my mind was, this is Paul Zellerbach doing this so he doesn't have to testify. He never had to get on that stand.
But why was the DA subpoenaed in the first place? Lewis says it most likely had something to do with Zellerbach's tough re-election campaign, when something happened totally unrelated to the murder, but that would affect the entire outcome. Zellerbach was caught on video tearing down his opponent's campaign signs.
He was going to testify on a Monday. The Friday before he was to testify, he let these 2 clowns go. He released them.
But as strongly as Lewis and others felt about Robert and Christian, could there have been any other suspects?
So who is Javier Garcia?
Javier was a really sweet guy, really nice. They were Becky and Javier were best friends.
Just friends? Depends on who's talking.
Javier was very, very much in love with Becky, and Becky was not in love with Javier.
And one more thing.
Javier's cell phone did ping up in the area about the time of the homicides.
Javier told police it was because he was driving toward Becky's to see if she wanted him to come along on that hike with Robert and Christian, but that after she declined, he turned around and drove home. Whatever the case, it was enough for prosecutors to ask Javier to testify as a witness before the grand jury indicting Robert and Christian. But here's where things take yet another turn.
Well, Javier's father works for the Riverside County District Attorney's Office at that time.
According to reports, Javier's father would only allow his son to testify if he was granted immunity.
It could have just been simply a very protective father that wanted to protect their son.
In fact, Javier was confirmed to be miles away at home when the murders actually occurred and was ruled out as a suspect. Regardless, DA Zellerbach refused to grant immunity. So Javier never testified. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, remember that incriminating video that busted Zellerbach?
The individual that caught him ripping down a campaign sign was Javier Garcia Sr. In that
Javier's,
video,
hold
his
on.
father.
What? Javier's father, who works for the DA, gets video of the DA tearing down campaign signs, which ultimately gets the DA arrested.
And he was convicted for a misdemeanor.
This is crazy. Why is that so important to this case?
Well, the DA responded that the reason that Javier Garcia Sr. was following him and trying to find something that he was doing wrong is because he was upset that he wouldn't give his son, Junior, immunity.
That's what Zellerbach said.
That was his initial response, yes.
But getting lost in the political circus was the very real fact that 3 people had been savagely murdered, and no one was facing justice. Thankfully, that was about to change with the election of a new district attorney.
The 3 victims in this crime were John Hayward, Vicky Friedley, and Rebecca Friedley, known as Becky.
Mike Hestrin takes over as new DA. Mike Hestrin vowed to pursue this vigorously and see if he can come up with enough evidence to rearrest these guys. More importantly, get to the truth, whether they deserve to be arrested or not.
One of the first things investigators did was re-examine the original evidence against Pape and Smith using updated technology, including that business card with Christian Smith's DNA on it.
DNA testing had improved so much that it made it 100 million to 1 that the DNA on that card was definitely Christian Smith's, where before it was something like 323,000 to 1. So it took that right off the table.
And then this. In online messages sent long before the murders between Robert and a friend, she asked for help with a bad relationship. Robert, writing as Buttercup 1000, says, "If you know where he lives, we can professionally burn down his house." She responds, "That's right, you're a little pyro." Then Pape answers, "I've gone through a 6-pack of matches already today."
The fire was already in their arsenal. They like to set things on fire. And somehow all that morphed into the decision to set the house and everybody there on fire.
But in what may be one of the most incriminating pieces of evidence to date, authorities recently uncovered recordings of phone calls Robert made from jail after his first arrest. Talking to his then-wife, Sarah, Robert apparently discusses hiding unregistered firearms, including one of the same caliber used to kill Vicky Friedley. We reached out to Sarah, who has since divorced Robert, but her lawyers have advised her not to speak at this time. New DA Mike Hestrin, however, was ready to say plenty.
What I thought was going to be a few months of a review turned into almost a year and a half.
This exclusive photo released by our affiliate, KESQ, shows the exact moment just a few months ago when Robert Pape was rearrested. Christian Smith was soon to follow, as was an official apology to the families for the apparent mishandling of the case.
I apologized to them for the added anguish and pain that must have caused them.
When you heard they were rearrested, what was that like?
I was very cautious. because of the experience, but I do feel that this time we have the right evidence.
And prosecutors hope one of those new pieces of evidence may very well amount to the smoking gun that makes these charges stick.
Right now, the DA's office has an informant that basically has Christian confessing.
Basically, yes. This informant claims to have had a conversation years ago with Christian Smith shortly after the triple homicides, in which Christian Smith bragged about how things got so out of hand up at the homicide scene that they had to burn the place down to the ground.
Both men have pleaded not guilty, and both their attorneys and family members vehemently deny the charges. If convicted, Pape would face the death penalty. And Christian, who after the murders actually went on to become a decorated war hero, receiving 2 Purple Hearts, faces life.
What do you think of Robert and Christian?
I'd like to wait until they're convicted before I make a statement so harsh. I don't want to make such a horrific statement until the trial's over.
But whatever the final outcome, the end result will be the same.
It's a horrendous crime. So how does your family manage with that kind of tragedy?
You don't manage. It was very difficult. Losing Becky was, excuse me, it was such a big loss because she was like the heart of our family. She was so young, so full of life, and you know, she didn't even have a chance to live.